Happy Facebook Live time and happy Thursday. Welcome to Treehouse TV and Melissa's Crafting Treehouse. I am live here every Thursday with a new fun project, a lot of the latest updates, and just generally lots of fun. Hi Debbie, welcome. See people joining in, awesome. Definitely say hello, tell me where you're from. Eventually I'll remember them all, right? Where everybody's from. Hi Robin, good to see you here. Okay, so I have a fun project for you with the Treasured Medallion stamp set and my favorite black ice technique. I have been playing with the Treasured Medallion stamp set quite a bit. I will tell you more about that in just a minute. And the project's pretty simple today, and so I'm excited about it though. It's a fun, simple, beautiful project. I think. We'll see what you guys think. Yay, so people joining in. Wonderful. So we're going to start with quick announcements. And last week I talked a bit about my technique classes and the availability of subscriptions and clubs. I only offer that option twice a year, so now is one of the windows in the year when I offer it. It's open until February 15th. But what I forgot to mention last week was that the class subjects. So a lot of times when I'm designing my technique classes, I don't have it all advanced designed. I wish I could do that. Just doesn't seem to fit into the schedule to be that far ahead. That is my fantasy, that one day I'll do that. So I actually haven't announced the subjects of the upcoming technique classes for the next 3-month series. That will come out soon. Some people have already registered. I like to think that those people that have registered, they just know they're gonna love what I'm doing, and so they sign up. Yay. And that makes me feel good. Thank you to those who have confidence in me in that way. But if you would like a little bit more information, I will be sharing the subjects of the next 3 technique classes the beginning of February. So that brings me to my next subject, which is the upcoming Maker's Mojo Creative Escape event. That is going to be on January 30th. The deadline to RSVP is the 28th of January. And I'm super excited about it. It's, you know, my partners and me, we've been sharing the projects that we're going to be doing and sort of moving along in all the development of that. And there's going to be a lot of fun, just like a ton of projects, just variations. Just this group of women that I'm working with are super awesome. I think you're going to love them if you participate in the event. So I really wanted to do something with the Treasured Medallion stamp set tonight because that is one of the main things I'll be using for my projects, for my class in the Maker's Mojo event. And I started creating with this set. I've done a couple of them. I used it for one of my recent technique classes, the Correct class, and love how those projects came out. And then I started playing with them some more, and I went from I couldn't create, I was stuck, to explosion. So I've been creating so much over the last week or so, which is just a great treat. So much so that I've been staying awake late, you know, very much several nights because when you get into that groove, right, you just got to take advantage of it. Anyway, so I really want to show a little bit of the Treasured Medallion set. I will say also, if you sign up for Maker's Mojo, you're not just going to get my class with that specific set, Treasured Medallions. I'm going to show you variations and other ways to use it, other card samples with different sets. So it's not the kind of thing where you have to do it with what I use. But I will tell you, warning, if you sign up for this event, you may have to buy the Treasured Medallion set because I've made so many fun things that you're going to see it and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I just have to have that set. So that's fair warning. So anyway, the registration details are on the Maker's Mojo Creative Escape page. I have put the web address in the description of this Facebook Live, and it will be in the YouTube Live description as well. So definitely check it out. The cost of the class is $40. It's going to be 3 classes, 3 what we're calling technique tornado sessions. So some technique fun. Those portions will be stamp along, and the classes will be, shall we say, watch along and make later. And that's really just because those will not be feasible for people to actually create with us. It's just not practical for us to demonstrate and you to be able to create that fast. But all that information will be there for you. So it's jam-packed with lots of content, and it's only $40. And it's free to team members. So if you're one of my team members or my cohort's team members, you'll get to attend this event for free. All right, so enough about that. Sign up, sign up, sign up. It's going to be fun. And let me know if you have questions too. There's lots more details on the website, on my website as well. All right, so on to the project demonstration. Now, I'm going to just start by telling you a little bit about my design process because I keep forgetting to talk about it on the back end. So I'm going to talk about it sort of a little bit on the front end, and then as I go, hopefully I'm going to remember. So I wanted to use my treasured medallions. So I usually start with a design where I have 1 or 2 variables that are kind of the absolutes. Got to use these things. So in the case of this one, the 2 things were the treasured medallion set, and I wanted to use the Love You Always foil sheets that are in the mini catalog. So those were sort of my 2 absolutes, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to turn my camera down and we'll get started with the project demonstration. All right, so if you guys have not seen this set, I'd love to know what you think of this set. This is the stamp set. Only a few images. It sort of has this regal look to it, which I just love. And I love medallions. I don't know about you guys, but it's just, I got a soft spot for medallions. So I'm going to be using my Stamparatus to, let's see. Anyway, to stamp my image, and I've marked on my grid paper here where I want it to be. So I'm trying to get my medallion centered right on the piece. Now this is part of the Love You Always foil set. There are 3 foil sheet colors that come in it. So I'm going to put it on front of the camera. Hopefully it won't be too crazy glary. You've got Sahara Sand, which is the one I'm using today. And then you've got one that's Blushing Bride, and this one is Rococo Rose. Rococo Rose is one of the colors that's retiring. It's one of the outgoing in colors that will be going away at the very beginning of May. So just word to the wise, if you like those, if you like Rococo Rose, definitely buy some up before it's gone. All right, so I'm using the Sahara Sand. And we're going to start by placing it. I've got some tick marks right here and here. I've got some other ones on here for other projects I've worked on, but this is the main one. And I do have some adhesive or temporary adhesive on there so that I'm going to place it down in its spot and it will basically stay there. I don't want to put my fingers on that too much just because you can get fingerprints on foil. So I'm just going to press that down, get it in place, and I'm going to use one of my magnets. I have some washi tape with packing tape wrapped around it to keep it there, so I have this nice little handle for my very strong magnet. And then I'm going to use my StazOn, my jet black StazOn. That's the only ink that you can stamp on foil or on non-porous surfaces. So that's what I'll be using. We do have another StazOn. I have not used it much. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's called Saddle Brown. And I've used it a little bit, but not a whole lot. The black is definitely the most versatile. I use my jet black StazOn a lot. I love StazOn. So I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm wearing a purple shirt. I did that because I had to wear something regal with stamping with the treasured medallions. Okay, and it's always best to have something underneath your little plastic sheet or plastic window, whatever it's called, so that you have a hard surface to press against. And this should be exactly centered because I tested it earlier. The nice thing about using the Stamparatus with StazOn on foil is that the image can't slide. This is one of the tricky things when you're stamping on foil, when you're freehand, you know, because it's sort of a smooth surface and your hand can move ever so slightly. And I did have that challenge a little bit with my sentiment. We'll see how well I do when I stamp the sentiment for you guys today. All right, so there is my lovely black image on the foil. What do you guys think? Do you like it? Do you think it would be pretty on these other colors? I was thinking, you know, they're not quite as regal, you know. I wanted to stay with the neutrals, but I think that would be really fun on those foils as well. All right, we're gonna set this aside now. And I just realized I forgot one step, so I'm gonna do it as a second step. But what I need to do now, in order to do this effectively, is I need to dry the StazOn on here. So let's just do that real quick. I'm on my low setting with my heat tool. So this is one of those things where, you know, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, like they say. That very strange expression. So usually the first step that I do when I do my black ice technique, if any of you guys have watched this before, is I take my black StazOn and I need a piece of paper. Hold on. I'm tethered by my cord for the microphone. Can you visualize that? It's pretty funny. Okay, so what I do is I want to hold down my foil with something where I'm not going to get my fingerprints on there, and I take my jet black StazOn. Normally this would be my first step, but you know, I'm going live and just spaced out because that's what happens sometimes when you go live. So I am now going to do what would normally be the first step. So I'm just going to very lightly kind of streak my paper, catching the black on the edges, and getting some kind of gentle streaks happening across the main piece of the paper. So I want to get the black to catch on both sides. And then I'm just going to move my Post-it, which could just be a piece of paper, doesn't have to be a Post-it. And I'm going to do the same thing to cover the rest of it. And I just love these streaky black edges. And I also want to have a little bit of the black on the other two edges. It won't be streaky because I'm trying to go with just the streaks going in one direction. But I'm just going to blacken the edges just a little bit. All right, so now I got to dry it again, because for the next step, if I don't dry it, it will potentially make a mess. So hold on just one sec while we quickly dry it again. At least the low setting's not so loud. Hi, fellow Melissa. Just happened to look at the screen from New York. Wonderful. Thanks for saying hello and saying where you're from. All right. Now that looks really pretty just the way it is. Sometimes when I'm doing a project like this, it's like I don't even really want to add the next step, but we're going to do it anyway so you can see the full-blown thing. So now I'm going to take my Versamark, and this is really where I'm adding the ice element to my focal piece. And you can see this starts out as white, your Versamark pad. So it gets dirty, right? It's part of why I dried this ahead of time, because if I don't dry it, then some of the black that's on there will get pulled up onto my Versamark pad, which probably happened again, and you know, in other cases, of course. And the other thing that will happen if you don't dry the black is in the next step, I will end up moving some of the ink on the surface. And that's not going to happen because I'm not doing that because I already dried it. But this is going to hold my Versamark pad just ever so lightly in my fingers. It's so it can sort of move. And then just with the weight of the pad, I'm just running across the surface. There's no pressing. There's really just the tiniest little bit of weight of the pad itself that's moving across the surface. What that's going to do is give me sort of a streaky effect of the Versamark on there. Obviously, I can't see what's there, so it's always a fun surprise to see what shows up next. Now, like I said, if that black were not completely dry, when I did the Versamark, I'd probably take that image and it would get blurry. I'd like blur the image, which could actually be another fun effect if you wanted to play around with it. But in this case, I didn't want a blurry image. I want that crisp medallion image. I think it looks a little more regal being not blurry. You probably agree. So now I'm just going over the whole thing with some clear embossing powder. And again, where the Versamark ended up on my paper, on my foil, you never know, right? Because it's a big kind of mystery because the Versamark is clear. And if you, I don't know if you can see that, but there's powder on this side and some on this side, just a little bit in the center. And that's just part of the fun of this technique. Everyone's going to turn out a little bit different. So now on my full heat setting, just realized I'm not centered there, I'm going to actually heat this and melt it. Let's see if I can hold it up to the camera. You guys can see I got something funny on there. Don't know what that is. Okay, and let's see if you can see it on camera melting. I'm going to try to capture that. I hope you guys can see the melting happening. I think that's one of the most fun things about heat embossing is watching the magic happen. A little hard to see with this foil paper. All right, let's see what we got here. So you can see it curls up, but it's fine. You don't want to overheat. Some of the foils actually have a plasticized element on the backside, like a layer, and that can sort of melt up. Some of them are more sensitive than others. This one is clearly just fine. You just need to flatten it out. So there is my focal piece, and I don't know if you can tell, there's sort of streaks along one side and along the other. And if I were like, you know, on the ground in the winter looking at the road and there was ice on there, this is what I would envision it would look like. Real close up. That's how the name came to be, because of just my perception of what it might look like. All right, so let's move on to the next steps. All right, so this is a pretty simple layout. I've got my black card base and a piece of Sahara Sand. It is my black ice technique. It's not cold though, and it doesn't have to be freezing in your house for this to work. Okay, I played around with some of the other designer papers. Let's see if I can find that piece over here. And played with this designer paper, which is the specialty paper. I played with streaking my cardstock, potentially to put on the bottom, and in the end, I just eliminated both of them. I just wanted simple. So we're going to take our focal piece and attach it to a piece of black cardstock, just an ever so thin edge for the layer behind it. It's actually just 1/8 of an inch bigger. I'll show that to you in a second. So there's the layer. Because it has black on the edges with the stays on, it didn't really need much of an edge because it almost looks like a bigger edge than it is since I have the black on the edge. And I do have adhesive on the back side of my black. I'm using my plasticized recycled piece, as I often do, just to speed the process up of creating live. All right, so again, design decision 1 was the foil and the medallion, and then I had to go from there and decide how I was going to do my sentiment, because I decided I wanted a sentiment. I played with ribbon at the bottom, and in the end I decided to do a little piece of the Sahara Sand foil, just unadulterated, and a black backing for it. I'm going to use my Treasured Tags Pick-a-Punch. This is my latest favorite punch because you can punch multiple sizes and for both of these two. This is really my favorite one. I can't stop using this one. The other one is fun too, but I just love that point for some reason. It looks so regal. So I'm just putting it in there, and this piece is long enough so I don't need a handle or something to hold on to with this. Okay. And I like to always put it in and look at it upside down. You could put it in this well. You see it actually fits in the well, but I sort of don't trust totally that it's centered, and it's just because it wiggles around a little bit back there. As you can see, it kind of wiggles side to side a little bit. So I always turn my punch over when it's this kind of punch to make sure I've got it centered. Okay, so Carol, you have a question. Are the embossed lines sinking into the foil paper? No. You mean like recessed? No, they're definitely not. They're actually, if anything, they're raised up. Okay, so now I'm going to take my black piece, which is just a little bit longer and wider, and punch it with the same end of the punch, same side of the punch. Now, I just love that shape. I think it's so elegant to have the little point. So that's my starting place, and now I'm just going to stamp my sentiment. I just love this sentiment. Check it out. It's so perfect. You are a treasure. Isn't that lovely? I just love that sentiment. I could think of several people to send that to, some precious people in my life. Okay, now here's where there's the potential for the stamp to slide, and we'll see how well I do. Got to go right over the top. It's like you have to be delicate but firm. Let's see if I got it. The first one I did actually was a little streaked. I managed to do this one better. I'll show you the first one in a short bit. And so I got a nice stamping of that image. If you can see it, the light is kind of funky. There we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. Now this is going to take a second to dry, so I'm going to sort of set that aside because I don't want to be messing with it. The Versamark the StazOn doesn't take too long to dry, but it is the non-porous surface, so it will stay wet for just a little bit. All right, so I've got adhesive on the back side of this. I'm going to use this tiny little strip. I think it is about 1/4 of an inch. I didn't even measure it. This was actually in my little scrap caddy that I have. I keep all kinds of scraps of strips that come in handy. So I'm going to lay out my pieces, not going to press it down quite yet, just so that I can get my placement. And I want my edges on all the sides to be about the same. And then the same with this piece will create the fourth side, the fourth edge. And there's some lint on there off. Sure you guys can't see that on camera, but I can totally see it. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, I got an idea. I'm just going to put it underneath where the adhesive is and hide it instead of try to get it off. Doesn't seem to want to get off. Oh my goodness gracious. I know you guys can't see it, but I totally can. Okay. I can't help it. I'm just particular that way. It's got to be what it's got to be. All right, so there we go. And now my black sentiment backing is going to be there. I can go ahead and attach that while I wait for my sentiment to dry. And I'm going to get it centered side to side. And that all looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and press it all down. And I like to, for this one, to have my streaks going vertically as opposed to horizontally. So I went with the black ice technique. The black streaks are in the same direction as the clear embossed streaks. And that's just the way I do it. That doesn't mean you might not want to do it a different way. All right, so I wanted a little bit of bling and something to flank my sentiment. So brought in my rhinestones. I tried a bunch of different options, and I didn't quite want it to be as silvery as rhinestones. So I am grabbing my dark smoky slate blends alcohol marker just to add the tiniest little bit of color. So you might be able to see on here, with your blends alcohol markers, you can color your rhinestones any color that you have an alcohol marker for. So I've done a few. This one is actually the bronze, which I like to use a lot when I'm doing gold type things. And I tried the bronze for this application, but it was just a little bit too yellowy. So the gray really just softens the shiny rhinestone element, so it still looks shiny, but not quite as white. And I'm just going to place them to sort of accentuate the point of my sentiment backing. All right, let's see if this is dry. I think it is enough. That is a good way to test out your StazOn to see if it's dry, is just pressing your finger on, and then you can look at your finger and see if there's any on your finger, or just feel if it's tacky, and that'll tell you if it's still wet. I'm still going to be careful not to rub on this because it could still be a little bit wet. And it's wide enough so I don't have to touch the ink. Kind of a stickler for getting the edges the same. And I think that's pretty good. Oh, darn, it moved. How'd that happen? As I was pressing it down. Okay. And then I'm just going to turn it over to make sure it's secure there. All right, so there is my finished card. Pretty simple, generally speaking. You got some steps for the technique focal piece, but not too much to do. And that's one of the things that I love, and people have told me they love about black ice, is that it's actually a pretty simple technique, just a few steps, and you're good to go. So this is my original one, and just I'm going to bring it up close so you can maybe see the sentiment. Can you see how the one on the left is just a little bit fatter and a little bit blurrier? Because it slipped a little bit when I was stamping. So just word to the wise to be careful on that. Oh, Shelley, I'm so glad you love it. Music to my ears, or to my eyes because I'm reading it. So I will be taking photographs of these and putting them on my website. They'll go into a blog post on Saturday, and the video will go live on YouTube on Saturday as well. Now, the other thing to note in the difference between these, this one had more clear embossing on it, has more ice on it, shall we say, and this one has a little bit less, has sort of a gap in the center. Both are pretty, but the way I like to describe the black ice and what the effect you get when you streak it across the paper with that ever so light touch is it almost looks like tiny little streaks of droplets that run down the paper. And the fact that you have the black in behind, the black streaks, helps to sort of highlight those linear droplets. So that's black ice. That's the treasured medallions. And I hope you guys will check out the Maker's Mojo event details and consider that, and get ready for a lot of fun with treasured medallions and more. Plus my partners have some great projects planned also. So just got to say that. Okay, so what else? I'm going to turn the camera around, and we'll have some quick departure. And let's see, quick reminders, and we'll be ready to send you off on your evening. Yay. Hi again, everybody. Again, I always wish I could see you guys. You guys can see me, but I can't see you. Well, I hope you enjoyed the project. Whether you've seen black ice before or not, it's sort of different every time depending on what stamps you use, and I always enjoy showing it. And whenever a new foil comes out, you know, I'm just inclined to playing around with it because it shows up different on different colors. So another thing you'll find if you look at some of my other black ice projects, thank you for hearts, whoever's doing that. Thank you so much. I love that. Is that once you put the clear embossing on your surface, you can add your blends alcohol markers over the top. Sometimes if your blends is directly onto the foil, in some cases with the foils, it'll actually remove the metallic surface. In others, it won't. It kind of varies depending on the foil. But it will color over the clear embossing, so you can potentially color in an image. I thought about doing that with this one, but none of the colors that I had were showing up on the foil. So that's one thing. I wanted to use a neutral, and I don't have the black blends alcohol marker. That would probably be the only one that would have shown up. I tried the gray, and I tried soft suede, and anyway, so that's just another word to the wise, another thing to play with the black ice technique. So, okay, what else? Okay, so just design-wise, I think I pretty much covered that. It was pretty straightforward, simple design, simple layout. If you liked the layout, I encourage you to just, you know, put your own focal point in there and your own sentiment and kind of play with it. And then you can potentially make multiple designs with that same layout, whether you use the same images I used or not. So, yay. All right. Okay, what else? All right, so keep in mind, just the quick reminders, beginning of February, after I get past the Maker's Mojo event, because that's a big thing coming up, I will post and announce here, of course, and on my blog, the subjects for the upcoming 3 technique classes. So if you're waiting for that to sign up for a subscription or a club or sign up for class, just know that that is coming. And then, of course, the subscriptions and club options are available through February 15th. So I guess that kind of wraps it up for the day. I will be back same time, same channel next Thursday, January 28th. Yes, a couple days ahead of our Maker's Mojo event, and that is actually the deadline to RSVP for the event. So you'll have a little bit more time to decide if you want to join in. So anyway, that wraps it up for today. I will be looking forward to reading your comments, hearing your thoughts. Tell me what other images you could see using with black ice. That'd be fun to know. And anything else you want to share. So I'll look forward to reading that and responding to your comments. Thanks for joining me today, everybody, and have a great week. Mwah.